Hello and welcome to Watchworthy. I'm your co-host, Miss Chris D.
And it's your boy, Brother Ash.
And today we are talking about the 2024 HBO and ID channel documentary. It's called The Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. So this one is very popular right now. Folks were talking about it as soon as it dropped. And I have to say that for me, I was drawn to it because I grew up watching these shows. You know, I was a tween in like the early 2000s with Zoe 101, iCarly, Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
And to find out what was really going on behind the scenes at Nickelodeon, my heart has been shattered.
I felt so catered to as a child because our generation, we had cartoons, we had live action shows, we had sketch comedy, we had all these different celebrities.
Yeah.
I felt represented as a baby, as a young millennial even back then,
A baby millennial.
Because we're old now, though.
Yeah.
We're old. I'm a young millennial, and I'm 27.
Right. And I do want to give you guys a trigger warning. This episode details emotional and sexual abuse of minors. So listener discretion is advised. That's your trigger warning at the top. And I was surprised, I guess not surprised, because in these kind of stories, this is all alleged, by the way. I have to say this is all alleged. In these kinds of stories, there's people who are going to, step up to the plate and tell their story. And then there's other people who are just going to be complacent. Like, you were there, you know it happened, but you're not speaking on it. Yeah. So since this documentary dropped, some people are coming for Ariana Grande for not speaking on it. Amanda Bynes was not part of the documentary. So that was kind of a bummer because I feel like it would have made it even more powerful if she was in it.
That has to be a red flag for me.
Red flag?
Red flag for me. Just because, I feel like you don't know where they're at in their comfortability. And if somebody was abused and just don't feel comfortable talking about it now, and maybe all of this coming out is giving them extreme anxiety and suffering of reopening the wound. I
agree that victims or survivors, they definitely have to come out in their own time. Drake Bell, his story was very prominent in the documentary. And Alexa Nichols, she's from Zoe 101. So some familiar faces for sure, but none of those heavy hitters like Amanda Bynes or Josh Peck. But like I said, Drake Bell's story, if you watch this documentary, will be enough to hopefully, I don't know. I'm hoping that from this documentary, there will be new changes and regulations for kids in TV. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the intro. So I'm gonna just let Brother Ash take it away.
Yeah. So let's get started in the early 90s with shows like All That and the Amanda Show. So back in the day, kids' TV choices was Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, and I remember that.
That's pretty much it.
I low-key remember even let me not flex, but I remember when Cartoon Network still wasn't as big as those two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Cartoon Network had them shows too.
Yeah, Cartoon Network had its own era.
I guess they did it right by doing all cartoons.
Yeah. Right.
Word.
I mean, the voice actors could get Me Too'd as well, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. So it wasn't no streaming, wasn't no Hulu or nothing like that. So if you didn't have cable, you was assed out. You was watching the news or whatever else your parents was catching on those 3 or VHS tapes. So Nickelodeon wasn't about educating kids as much or about as you know how Disney Channel always got that. So what did we learn at the end of this episode?
Yeah.
Nickelodeon had that, but they was more so about pure entertainment, creative entertainment.
I feel like Nickelodeon has more educational shows now that I'm older.
Yeah,
they actually be teaching them something. Yeah,
because the guy we about to talk about next,
he ruined it.
He ruined it. He probably not around no more. Dan Schneider will become Nickelodeon's golden boy, producer and creator during this time. Dan grew up in Memphis. He described himself as an awkward, weird, fat kid. And this was a red flag. Not the fact that he was awkward and weird and fat, but his parents didn't have high expectations for him.
Red flag. If your own parents don't believe in you, or it just seemed like he was the black sheep of his family.
So if your parents don't believe in you, your parents are either super fucked up, and by that you're being raised by fucked up people, hence making you a fucked up person. Or if your parents don't believe in you, you're really just naturally a fucked up person, and they have legit reason to not believe in you or want to support you.
Yeah.
So Dan got his start as a co-writer and a cast member on the late 1980 sitcom called Head of the Class. I never really heard
I
about
think
this.
I have heard of that one, yeah.
But he still felt like he had a lot to prove.
Because he still played the fat kid on that show.
Yeah. And yo. People, we so sensitive to stuff now. And I'm not like one of those people like, oh, we're too sensitive. But like, it's crazy when you watch like old sitcoms, like you could really crack fat jokes back then. And you just can't do that no more. Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm not for fat jokes. I'm just saying like times have really changed.
I'm just thinking especially the 80s and then going into the 90s, like you could get away with a lot.
And I feel like because of that, you could literally get away with a lot in more than one, area. You feel me? So, in 1994, Nickelodeon comes to Dan looking for ideas, and he comes up with all that as an idea because it's like, yo, this is sketch comedy, but like kids, kind of like Saturday.
That was groundbreaking.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live, but a child cast, which was dope. We loved that. I thought that. My parents used to sometimes watch all.
Everybody
that with
loved
us,
all that,
and they was like, "What's wrong with these kids?" But it is kind of, you know what I mean, like. So
I guess this is a good chance to say, like you said, we loved these shows growing up. We were children. We did not know what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I felt like sometimes I did have like my mom be like, this stuff is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Scooby Doo. Like now y'all like pouring slime all over each other. That's weird. Like that's dirty. Like, I don't know. So people were like on set back then and said that people that were on set said that Dan was like a big kid, always like keeping the air like light, wasn't a real serious guy.
Red flag for me because I don't be jokey that much at work. Like people be pranking each other and stuff. I'm not that friendly with my coworkers.
And it's crazy because he was apparently only like this in the beginning, or mainly in the beginning. But Dan started to push the boundaries more and more in his true colors as an abusive, misogynistic, and perverted freak-ass bull started to come to surface. And it's crazy because, like, the more clout and the more power he got, the more of a jerk and a misogynistic, perverted freak boy he got. So
that power went to his head. Yeah.
So it went straight to his head, but it's because he was a weird fat kid that probably didn't have a lot of confidence. Oh, so now these people want you to create a freaking entertainment dynasty.
Yeah, it definitely went to his head.
Yeah.
Like you went from the kid who played a fat kid on TV to now you're getting to write some of the greatest shows Nickelodeon's ever had.
So not only was he like a freak, weird type dude, he also had like some other like moral compass errors going on. Just because like the black dudes that was on all that, Byron and Leon both spoke on this documentary, and they felt like very exposed during some of the skits and sketches on all that, specifically where they had to wear like leotards and stuff, and they felt like, yo, like I was a 12-year-old boy. And look, I remember being a 12-year-old boy, man. Like, yeah, if you're not one of these cool Jaden Smith type kids, Karate Kid, sometimes you can be uncomfortable with your body, and being in a tight ass leotard is weird for a preteen, girl or boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, it's like you're in TV, you're gonna have to wear costumes. But why did this producer, Dan, want the boys to be in leotards every scene? That was mad weird.
And they had kind of like a superhero type character for some of these guys. So, like, I get it. But at the end of the day, the kids didn't feel comfortable. And they were never given an option or never given a voice. And if they did voice their opinion, it was never really taken seriously by Dan or anybody that supported Dan.
At the end of the day, you're a kid and you work for me.
And you also making money for your family. So it's like, hey, do you want to stop fucking up this money? Or So Dan was nice to people like Kyle, which was a white boy with glasses.
Yeah, do y'all remember the white boy and all that with the glasses?
Or he was cool. He was cool. But he wasn't nice to Brian. Like, so in the other black guy, so to speak. So like,
was he racist also? Possibly.
I don't see why not. Where this documentary goes, like, and it's crazy. I don't like this podcast has kind of become a platform where we advocate for the safety of American youth, but I'm just starting to notice how much of that is in jeopardy now. The more and more topics we discuss, you know what I'm saying? We kind of keep coming across this.
Well, I think we always knew that you shouldn't be a child actor. Like, we always knew that industry had a dark side.
Red flag, though. Like, why is that industry just synonymous with this level of abuse and trauma? Like, why can't
the entertainment industry in general? Yeah.
So anyways, one of the black girls on all that, Raquel, was 12, and she was over the moon about being on the show.
I used to want to be on TV.
Yeah,
I wanted to do the Disney Channel one.
She even
well, we're talking about Nickelodeon.
I remember that shit though. She even like kind of mentioned, like I knew I was the token black girl, so to speak. Yeah. So, she wanted Dan to like her because she felt like once Dan liked you, that means like he was nice to you. You know what I'm saying?
That's not how it should be, but that's how it is.
You should just treat. I mean, even though they are kids, at the end of the day, those are your employees, so to speak. So you should treat all your employees fair. Like, this dude was an asshole, man. Like, he had favorites and all that. So Dan threw his economic and emotional power weight all throughout the office, all throughout the production. Basically,
imagine your boss always reminding you, I cut the checks around here.
Yeah, and also and imagine like a grown man checking you about something in front of your parents, or even checking your parents on something in front of the kid. Red flag on that.
My mama would not have let somebody talk to her like that. So like you said, I think a lot of the parents just shut up because they want the money.
But I don't want to ruin anything, but I'm glad that some parents did speak up and did kind of phase out of Nickelodeon entertainment, because
the kid could have been worse off.
Spoiler alert, shit gets weird.
Yeah.
So sexualized jokes and physically uncomfortable sketches on all that are happening like a lot.
I forgot about the on-air dares.
Yeah, specifically on stuff like on-air dares, and it was basically Fear Factor, but for kids.
That's not okay.
Now, yeah, red flag.
Like, they showed, all of it just unlocked my memories. And I was like, oh yeah, they was eating scorpions on Nickelodeon. That's not
First of all,
kids.
Fear Factor was old, because like they used to be like, all right, dickhead, we're going to give you $10,000 and you got to sit in this tub full of snakes. Nigga.
Yeah. Kids shouldn't be doing that.
They did a side-by-side of how many like of the on-air dares came directly from the Fear Factor show. Like the same animals, the same bugs, the same situations and circumstances. Like that's inappropriate to me. And these are kids. They're fucking terrified. And they like kind of like...
Yeah, he said like I was actually scared.
Yeah, and they gotta like force themselves to like be interactive and to be happy and like laughing while they see their friends /
the black boy getting covered in peanut butter and licked by dogs just seemed very...
Yeah, that was wild.
Didn't seem right
that
to
was
me.
wild. Like, cause I think like he was in like swim trunks and covered. Like that's drawing. So not a lot of positions in comedy for girls or women at the time. Surprise, surprise, red flag.
Red flag.
So Katrina Johnson was on all that from ages 10 through 16. And Dan was her mentor. Red flag.
I mean, I'm not putting a red flag for mentor, because you can have a mentor of the opposite gender. Well, however, he should be more of like an acting coach, not just like you hanging out with him at comedy clubs.
Well,
that's weird.
She spent long days on the set, and how come you wasn't running over no lines to mentor none of the young men on the show?
Yeah, that's true.
So what's up with that? What's up with that? Shout out to my boy Keenan.
Yeah, see, Keenan wasn't in the documentary. Keenan's not backing up any of these stories. So Keenan's not trying to mess with his money.
We don't know what Keenan went through, and I'm going to leave that to Keenan to tell his story when he want to tell his story. Katrina didn't say Dan touched her or anything, right? But like we were saying, it's just kind of a little weird for a little girl to be around a grown man like that so often. Right. And when Katrina got the boot from all that, Amanda Bynes became the new favorite. So basically, like,
red flag, because Katrina, you basically got the boot because you grew up. Oh, sorry, you aged out, and Dan doesn't like you anymore.
They literally told her like she was getting too fat or something.
Yeah,
she was
hit
putting
puberty.
On weight.
She got boobs.
Which is all of that is just kind of unsettling for real.
Yeah.
Like you got now the new favorite is the young, ripe freaking girl. You know what I'm saying?
She was 12.
So Dan spotted Amanda Bynes at the Laugh Factory, and the Amanda Show became like their big break. I remember this happening. Like
I love the Amanda Show.
Like I legit remember like the Amanda Show, like being like, "Yo, I can't wait to watch the Amanda Show." And it came on like on Fridays, right?
I don't remember, but I used to love the Amanda Show. Like all the different sketches. To this day, like you say, I say, please, like Amanda, please. Like
I can't forget how funny them shits was, but as we was watching this documentary, I was like, yo, that shit really...
It doesn't make you laugh as much.
I appreciate Amanda Bynes even more now, though, for being that talented, that young.
She was super talented.
Word. So behind the scenes, female writers were talked down to. Obviously, any woman in the office was talked down to. If there were even any woman at all.
Yeah, Dan.
In the office.
Someone in the documentary said that the big boss Dan Schneider said like women aren't funny.
Yeah.
If anybody said that to me and I had a comedy writer job, I would probably leave.
Like, and you say that to your writers who are writing your shit, and you're telling them that they aren't funny. So, anyways, they were also asked to split one salary.
Red flag,
which is crazy.
Again, this is the 90s, but that had to be illegal back then.
How do you tell somebody to split a salary? Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, bro? And Dan used his power to make them do like weird, embarrassing, inappropriate shit. Like
we're not even gonna get into the stuff that he said. Y'all can watch the documentary.
Yeah. But he would like be like, "Yo, I got $50 for you. Give me a massage."
Yeah,
and did not even get a motherfucker the $50.
That was just so weird. I could just feel the toxicity in the environment. Like,
that's literally sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And yes, I say harassment, and only when this is sexual harassment in the workplace.
Super
Something about
harassment.
When it happens in the workplace makes me say harassment and not harassment.
So there was clearly no HR at all at the Paramount Studios.
Dan probably was the supervisor of HR.
Yeah.
Or some shit. Like, so how could Nickelodeon allow Dan to like be around children like when he treated adults like this?
Yeah.
Like, how come there wasn't an HR to like step in and say, "Hey Dan, like you're doing way too much, bud, like, and we like you, but you're not talented enough to be an asshole all day."
If you are going around yelling at adults and talking down to them, like, why would anybody allow you to host a kids show?
And also, maybe he just was that talented. Like, Nickelodeon was going crazy back then, yo. Like, it really was.
That's
like,
sad, though. That shows, like, the greed. Like, oh, we're going to turn a blind eye. We don't care what he's doing over there as long as he pumps out good shows.
Something that I ain't really was sharp to. I'm a grown-ass man, and I ain't know about this. Y'all remember Penelope Taint, the girl on the Amanda show that was obsessed with Amanda? Apparently, her last name Taint, spelled Taynttt, is like a inappropriate like part of the body that's like only known in a sexual context. Like, it ain't like your elbow or some shit. It's like a gooch or something like that.
Yes, the taint is the area between the butthole and the testicles.
So there was that. There was the hot tub scenes where Amanda was interviewing people in the hot tub.
Why was she in a hot tub? Now that I think about it, like
it just seemed
she didn't
normal.
have to. Yeah, like oh, Amanda interviews people in a hot tub. To us, that was like cool as a kid.
Yeah, because I thought being in hot tubs was
I used to love hot tubs.
Word.
So yeah, he definitely knew how. He just basically knew how to hide his pervertedness, like right under people's noses.
But what if we subliminally liked hot tubs because we watched Amanda interviewing grown men
in hot tubs? So after watching this, Brother Ash thinks that we were conditioned.
I do think that's what the biggest like thing is with all of this. Like, a lot of the stuff you see on this documentary, it isn't like. It's a lot of shit that is in your face, like, boom, this is weird. But it's also a lot of shit where you be like, if you don't realize as a kid what this is, when you do learn about it, your mind is just kind of like, oh, I'm familiar with this because I've seen hints of this on my favorite TV show. You know what I mean? Like, that's how the brain works. So, anyways, Amanda spent way too much time with Dan. Dan will always have like an arm around her, always like kind of like right flirting on the line and inappropriately touching her too much. Like, you know, like it's just weird. You know what I'm saying? And the law always says, like with, child acting, that there has to be a parent or guardian within sight of the kids. But they were like kind of advised to stay out the way, and like the way the sets were just structured at Nickelodeon, parents weren't really involved.
It was like, you go sit in the green room and your kid will be back in a couple hours.
So it leaves a lot of room for, and some parents are like hands-on, like, oh, like I really gotta be there though. Like, but other parents are like, all right, cool, like I'm gonna go shopping on we're in LA, so let me go check out Hollywood while you guys shoot. So yeah, that leaves a lot of room for shit to go down, and shit definitely went down. So
that's the thing. I want to be clear. In the documentary, they never said that Dan Schneider was ever charged with any sexual abuse. But it's just this creepy, toxic man who clearly had an affinity for young girls. And he was running the show, and I just don't like that. That's the unsettling part. The
reason for me though, Dan Schneider set the turf for a lot of things that happen. Even though he wasn't convicted of ever inappropriately touching a kid, things did happen where kids were inappropriately touched, and I have a funny feeling it's because the type of environment that he
definitely
made acceptable. You know what I'm saying? So Amanda Bynes always had a lot of pressure and expectations from her dad and Dan. They basically handcrafted her career, like molded her
Yeah.
into this perfect child entertainer. And Dan eventually convinced her to take her parents to court to be emancipated.
That's grooming. Red flag. That's
Super red
like,
flag.
you don't need your parents. You just need me.
What type of adult tells a child, yeah, you don't need it, unless your parents like out here wild and doing some crazy shit.
That's the
like,
problem when a child starts working, because now you have like workers' rights. And like your paycheck is in your name, not your parents.
What do you do when the breadwinner of your family is your 16-year-old daughter whose boss is a weirdo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely weird. So, anyways, the emancipation fails. She doesn't get it. So that kind of cuts ties with Dan. And then, we kind of see Amanda Bynes after that.
Her downward spiral.
And, well, she had some great moments too, but I remember the moment where it's like, oh,
I feel like after Hairspray, what
it's
did
no
she
more
do
Amanda
after
show.
that?
Like it's only the reruns now. Okay, like dang, like she's old.
Well, she
now.
was always gonna. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's also the thing with child actors. Like, it's only cute for a couple years, and then you grow up, and then people don't want to see as much of you anymore.
Amanda was funny though. Like,
so if you're able, that's what I'm saying. If you're able to like take your career from child to adult, like Miley. Well, Miley's not a good example because she had her issues too.
Yeah.
So there's a pattern here. We see before this documentary came out. FYI, there's another documentary called Kid 90, and it's about all the child actors in the 90s. Not the Nickelodeon people. It was more so like movie stars. So if you're interested in this whole concept of the dark side of kids TV, definitely check out that documentary Kid 90 on Hulu. But going back to this Nickelodeon documentary, Quiet on Set. So the person at the top sets the tone for everybody else, like Brother Ash said. And so that meant that Dan's cast and crew went on to have child molesters on set. Like, nobody doing checks and balances, no HR, nobody cares.
No.
So there was one guy named Jason Handy, and he was kind of like a production assistant, kind of just like a jack of all trades. He helped usher the kids from here to there. There was a story on the documentary about a girl named Brandy. Brandy was not in the documentary. Her mother was speaking for her because probably effed up her life, for real. Because after this, you'll see all the kids went on to have some type of issue because it really messed up their lives. It's a very pivotal, vulnerable time in a child's life.
And it's the first time you're kind of like brought into the workspace. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, like,
and you don't know what's normal and what's not, and you're like 12 years old.
Word.
So Brandy, she was just an extra on the Amanda show. You know, like the courtroom scene, like she was one of the students in the classroom or something. And so her mom said that after that appearance, the guy Jason, the production assistant, would send emails to Brandy, just catching up, like, red flag. Because I was trying to like sugarcoat it, but there's nothing good about a grown 20-something-year-old man emailing an 11-year-old. There's no. I mean, why wouldn't you at least CC her mom on the email or something?
I wouldn't even feel comfortable emailing a kid. Like, I would be like, I'll talk to your parents about whatever I need to talk to you about.
I actually saw on Facebook a girl I follow from high school. She's a teacher, and she was like, oh, look how cute. One of my students invited me to her birthday party. And she's like a 6th grader, like, Mrs. blah, 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 would you like to come to my birthday party? Like,
well, yeah, that's
maybe breaking the boundaries, too. Kids should not be able to personally email you. They probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I could also see like a situation where like, there's rapport there between the girl and the family and the teacher.
So that's exactly what Brandy's mom thought. She thought, okay, this guy was helpful and nice on set. He's just filling my daughter in on, what's going on set. I know you love the show.
Oh no, this ain't that though.
Yeah, so it turned worse. And he kept emailing Brandy until finally one day Brandy was so flustered and so upset. Her mom was like, what's going on? Because she's noticed you ever did the quick close of the laptop?
Yeah.
And this was not something that she wanted to see. Brandy was only 12 years old, and Jason Handy sent her a picture of his genitalia. So, red flag, because this is somebody who is supposed to be trusted. You're supposed to be a handler of children on set, and this is what you're doing on the side. So, they since got him locked up because Brandy's mom didn't say anything, actually. She didn't call the police because she thought, oh, I'm going to look like a bad parent. And that's the main thing. That's the main thing people always say, like, oh, if I tell the police, then I'm going to be in trouble. I get that. I wouldn't want to go to the police either because they're probably going to say, why you got your kid around this person, but
At the end of the day, though, if you don't like go to the police, you risk the person being able to do this again to somebody else.
And they did. That's the only reason why they finally